On air, online, on demand. Watch AFR when you want, where you want with CN8, the Comcast network.
Going to move on to politics now, and all this week we are gearing up for the political conventions coming right up. We'll be comparing the candidates on some of the top campaign issues. We'll talk about foreign policy, we'll talk about the economy, we'll talk about health care, and even how the candidates could affect the Supreme Court. Today, we're going to focus on health care, and we'll start with some numbers to get things going. According to the National Coalition on Health Care, still 47 million Americans remain uninsured. That includes families, children, and grandparents. Part of the reason could be the price premiums in the U.S. has now risen to 71% just over the past 7 years, making insurance less affordable to many people. Last year alone, premiums rose 6%. Now that may seem small to you, but take this into account. The rate of inflation in 2007 was 3%, which means healthcare premiums rose double the rate of inflation. And the hardest part of all of this, American earnings for the same year rose only 3.7%. Hardly enough to keep up with rising costs. So what do the candidates plan to do about this? Let's talk about it. Robert Petcove is the president of the Advanced Benefit Advisors, an employee benefits firm and expert on health care. He joins me now from our studios in Philadelphia to talk more about this. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. You know, the candidates have been talking about their health care platforms for a very long time, but I'm not really sure if people really get it, just what each one proposes to do. And I want you to help me to break that down now. Can we start with Senator Obama?
Yes, Senator Obama's play is very different than Senator McCain's. Obama really is concentrating right now on universal coverage for all people, number one. Make it accessible and affordable for all people. He really wants it to be the employer's responsibility as to who's going to get the tax break and whose emphasis is it to charge and offer this the health care plan. Along with one very different aspect, he's going to make it mandatory for children only. He feels if it's going to be accessible for everybody, if we make it mandatory for children, everybody will have it. And he wants some sort of guaranteed coverage for everybody, which is very different than Senator McCain's situation. So they're very different platforms as what Senator Obama wants versus what Senator McCain would like.
And we're going to move on to Senator McCain in just a minute, but guaranteed coverage for everyone. Now, that's the difference from mandatory coverage for everyone, for example, as he's proposing for the children, right?
That is correct. When he says guaranteed coverage for everybody, that means everybody will have a baseline plan for all members of the U.S. If you want additional coverage on top of that, you can pay for it on a private sector basis, but on a public sector basis, everybody will have it guaranteed, according to Senator Obama.
Okay, and let's move on to Senator McCain now. Let's walk through his platform.
Sure. Senator McCain is talking about really different parameters in his plan. He's talking about cutting costs, number one. Number two, he's talking about accessibility and more choice of plans than Senator Obama is. He's talking about the onus being on the individual members, not the employers. So the tax breaks come down to the employees or the individual members on a tax break basis. And he's not saying that. He's saying that he feels that if coverage is affordable, it doesn't have to be mandatory. Everybody's going to buy it if it's at the right price.
Okay,
so very different speculation.
Yeah. So no mandatory coverage from Senator McCain, because he says, as you say, if it's affordable, then they'll buy it. And that is a departure. Is that the starkest difference in these two platforms?
That, along with whose onus it is to own the plan, meaning is it the employer's responsibility or is it the members or the individual American responsibility? Senator Obama is really saying that if it's up to the individuals and we give them the tax breaks, they're going to buy it regardless of whether it's through their employer or through a private payer or maybe even individual insurance. So that's also a major difference.
Which one of these plans, in your professional opinion, directly and most directly affects the bottom lines, the pocketbook for the American public?
Well, it's an interesting question. The reality of it is if you give everybody a tax break on the McCain side, everybody's guaranteed to have it. On the Obama side, however, really what he's talking about is requiring children to have it, but really going along more of the socialized medicine type theory of we have in Canada and Europe and other types of methodologies where the waiting game comes into play and the cost of goods and services and increased tax number as well. These coverages aren't free, so they're coming from very different sides. I personally like the McCain theory because I think that'll get passed through the House and the Senate a lot quicker than the Obama theory.
Right, and that certainly is obviously a part of all of this. Which plan can gain support on the Congress and in the minds of the American consumer as well?
That's correct.
And again, how soon do we think that either of these plans could be implemented in 2009?
That's a $40,000 question, so to speak. If you look back 12 years ago to Hillary Clinton, she said 90 days she'll have one passed, and that was universal coverage. 12 years later, we're still looking for it. So I believe it'll take a couple years to get either one passed, even if one is promoted more than the other. But I think we still got a time to go.
Yeah, a couple of years, maybe just in time for the next presidential election. But let's hope that something can happen to change things around in a speedier fashion. Thank you very much, Robert Petcove, health insurance advisor. Thank you for being part of the report.
Thank you, Art.
Okay, remember, all week we're drilling down into the issues that are affecting you in this presidential election. Tuesday, we'll talk about the economy. Wednesday, we'll talk about the politics of the Supreme Court. You know, the president gets to pick Supreme Court members. And Thursday's foreign policy is what we'll be talking about then. We hope that you will keep watching.